Are you ready? Sorry. Um, are you ready for me to go ahead and move forward then?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So today, I guess I'll talk about kind of what it has been like since we lost Mac, um, and trying to take him with us as we move forward. Um, so Nicole had wanted me to kind of talk to you about the things that helped us, especially in that first year, which was really, they say the first year is the hardest, and that you are trying to just breathe at that point. You're trying to just kind of get through. So I think I have to say, first of all, the only reason that I can breathe, the only reason I think I'm here today is really because of Mac's faith and my faith. You know, I believe that he's with Jesus and that I'll see him again someday. So I think that kind of changes everything. But beyond that, you know, we still had to do all of the things. I think so. The day on July 13th, when Mac died, we were, my husband, my two children, myself, we were in his room, and they had just pronounced him dead. And I think, I mean, it started right there. We just, I said out loud even that we were going to live through this. We were moving forward somehow. I just wasn't really sure how that was going to be yet at that point. And so starting right then, we really just did, the biggest thing is that we did everything together. I don't know if that's normal or not. I don't know what's normal, but that's what we did. We came home from the hospital that day, and that evening, you know, we decided we needed to try to get cleaned up and get some sleep. We literally, in a huddle, went up the stairs together, sat on the landing outside of the bathroom. One at a time, we'd go get a shower and come back out, and take turns, and went that way. We didn't leave each other's sides. My son, John, I think this was kind of important too, that he said, "Mom, I need to get some clothes." And Mac and John shared a room. And of course, Mac had taken his life in his room. So I felt like that was going to be, you know, how I reacted to that statement was going to kind of set the tone. And so I said, "All right, buddy, you got to get your clothes. It's just a room. You want me to go get them for you? You want me to go with you?" He said, "Just come with me." So we did. He went and he got his clothes, and it was okay. And that first night, and actually for several nights after that, we all just like, we piled into one bed together and tried to sleep. Eventually, I think the kids pulled a mat, but we stayed in our room together for quite a while. Eventually, finally, John took that mattress into his sister's room, but it took a while before really he could go back in his room. We offered to switch. Obviously, I wasn't going to make him take that room, but he wanted it, and he said, "No, it's my room, but can we change it up?" So my husband just completely remodeled it. We painted and new carpeting and new furniture and everything, and eventually John went back in that room, and that's his room now. So we stayed together, we did everything together, and that's including football. And that sounds like a funny thing to put on a list of what helped, but John played football. Practice had already started in July, and he didn't want to miss. He said, I just want to go to practice. This was the next day, the next morning. So remember, we're doing everything together. So, okay, you can go to football practice. We'll all go. And we did. We all went to football. And we did that for days. It was okay. You know, I literally planned a funeral and got burial plots all from the practice field. And that's what we did. We just really stayed together. We did everything together. I immediately found a trauma counselor. I thought that was something that we really needed. I was worried about what John and Ellie had seen, and you know, beyond the grief. So we found a counselor, and within a couple of days, I found one. It took a month before we could get in for our first appointment, but he was great. I would credit that with much of our recovery, I guess, that's the word. So we got into him early. We went together as a family. We each went separately some. Today, my husband and my son and myself, we still check in, I would say, kind of as needed. We still see the same counselor. My daughter had a little more of a complicated counseling mental health journey. And I could talk like for an hours about that, but I won't. I'll just say that, you know, but it was great because we were able to get her kind of the help she needed eventually. And she's on a different journey, but she's doing all right. The other thing that helped a lot was, again, very early, probably the next day, we knew that Mac's friends, our kids' friends, they knew that something had happened. I don't know that they knew exactly what. It was out there on social media. And so we didn't want to leave people in the dark. And Mike and I, as my husband, we decided to put together a post. And we put it out on social media. And we just said straight up, Mac took his life last night. Please feel free to stop by. We're not entertaining negativity, but all questions are fine. You know, please stop by. And they did. And that's another thing that helped, I think. There were people here constantly for weeks. And that really helped. His friends showed up, our friends showed up. People were here to just visit and to help and to, you know, do whatever we needed done. And remember, so this was July of 2020. So we were just kind of coming out of lockdown. And we put a sign at the front door and said, we're out back, come around. And we sat out on our patio with people. And that helped too. Being outside, for whatever reason, even still today, there's something calming, I think, about being outside. I feel close to Mac outside. So nature, I think, is really important. We travel some. I'll talk about that in a minute too. But when the anniversary of Mac's death rolled around the first year, we decided to take off for the mountains, and we've done that ever since. Something about just the mountains or the beach or, outside helps. So we had a lot of people here. People stepped up. Wasn't always the people we thought, it was interesting, and we still talk about that. The folks that, maybe we weren't expecting or that we hadn't seen in a while, who proved to be so helpful for various things. We made a lot of close kind of friendships, recommitting, some things. We made lifelong friends, really. And that was a huge help. Like, having people here was helpful. Another thing that helped, I think, we decided after a lot of discussion and conversation about what was best, John and Ellie wanted to go back to school in August. So we met with the administrators at their school, and we explained, they knew what happened, but we explained that they wanted to try for normalcy. So it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like you can only be okay for a certain length of time. And then it just kind of hits. For me, it was like a physical pain, a little bit of anxiety. And so we explained that might happen, they might be able to go all day, or they might not. They might just need a little break. And it was great. The administrators, the teachers, they said whatever they needed. They each had somewhere where they could go and just kind of take a break for a minute if they needed to. And that was really helpful. And they did that. I went back to school in August also. I felt like I couldn't just, I needed to be doing something. And I did the same thing. I told my students, they, most of them knew Mac, and I said, this is what happened, and I might just need a minute every now and again. I had good friends at school that were there to help me if I needed something, and I did a couple times. I'm like, I need a minute, and I'd duck out and go somewhere, and I'd get myself together and come back. So that really helped a lot. For me, another thing that helped tremendously was I read everything I could get my hands on. People gave me books. I found an online support group that was amazing. And so from there, I got a lot of advice, and that was helpful. Some I tried, some worked, some didn't, but at least I had ideas. And the biggest thing is for me, to see people who had been where I was and were, 2, 3, 4 years in and living, breathing, that was helpful. Like, to see that it could happen, that I could get there. So for me, that was huge. And that was pretty much our first year. Now, where are we now? There we are now. So now we can each be alone. It took me a long time. It took me a long time not to check on my kids literally every 5 or 10 minutes to make sure that they were okay, that they hadn't hurt themselves, that they were all right. It took us a while to let them start to do things on their own. But now we can. Now those death anniversaries, we still try to get out of town for those. But I try not to give them too much power. Birthdays, on the other hand, we celebrate. Mac's birthday is the day after Christmas. And so that can be hard. This past year would have been his 21st birthday. And so we had a party. We threw a big kind of holiday / birthday open house, and tons of people came, and it was good. We have John and Ellie are just amazing. We're so fortunate. You know, having done all that research and gotten my hands on everything I could, I was aware that things could go really, really badly. Our kids are just amazing. We have really good kids. As you can see, John just graduated high school this past spring, and he is starting at Akron University this fall. Ellie will be a senior this year, and they're doing all right. The guilt, I could talk for a long time about that as well. But it is pervasive, and I'm afraid it's permanent, but we're working on it. We're working on it. And we're trying to move forward and, you know, but not forget him and not leave him. We're finding ways to kind of move forward and take him with us. And I think that's about it. Do we have questions?